All right, guys. So we are getting to the end of our book, and I don't know about y'all, but I'm excited to finish it up because it really does have a great ending to it with a few twists in there that I don't think y'all are going to expect. So today I'm just going to be reading chapter 24. My next video, I'll read the epilogue, and then I'm going to help you with some questions once we get to the epilogue. But for today, we're just going to do some reading, and we're going to talk about, just how Winnie's feeling at this point and what she's thinking. So let's go on ahead and dig in. Leaving the house was so easy that Winnie felt faintly shocked. She'd half expected that the instant she put a foot on the stairs, they would leap from their beds and surround her with accusations. But no one stirred. And she was struck by the realization that if she chose, she could slip out night after night without their knowing. The thought made her feel more guilty than ever, that she should once more take advantage of their trust. But tonight, this one last time, she had to. There was no other way. She opened the door and slipped out into the heavy August night. So, there was no other way. I know that we've talked about the fact that Winnie really has struggled through this whole story about, are the Tucks telling the truth? And while she's never said that she 100% believes it, I think right now she's the more she's with them, the more time she spends with them, I think she may not still completely believe them, but she loves them so much that she feels like they're such a part of her family that she knows she has to help them. So I'm just going to write my question here that, does she finally believe them? Because honestly, I don't know. And it's a question that I've always wondered, is that, does she believe them that they will live for forever, or does she just not want her family, this family that she feels like is her family now, to not have to go through this? Leaving the cottage was like leaving something real and moving into dream. Her body felt weightless, and she seemed to float down the path to the gate. Jess was there, waiting. Neither of them spoke. He took her hand, and they ran together, lightly down the road, past other sleeping cottages, into the dim and empty center of the village. The big glass window was where lidded eyes that didn't care. The big glass windows were here lidded eyes that didn't care, that barely saw them, barely gave them back reflections. The blacksmith shop, the mill, the church, the stores, so busy and alive in daylight, were hunched, deserted now, dark piles and shapes without a purpose or a meaning. And then ahead, Winnie saw the jailhouse, its new wood still unpainted, lamplight spilling through a window at the front. And there, in the cleared yard behind it, like a great L upside down, was the gallows. So just in case you remember that gallows, that's where back then, they would actually hang people. The sky flashed white, but this time it wasn't heat lightning. For a few moments later, a low mumble, still far away, announced at last the coming storm. A fresh breeze lifted Winnie's hair, and from somewhere in the village behind them a dog barked. Two shadows detached themselves from the gloom as Winnie and Jess came up. Tuck pulled her to him and hugged her hard, and Miles squeezed her hand. No one said a word. Then the four of them crept to the back of the building. Here, too high for Winnie to see into, was a barred window through which, from the room in front, light glowed faintly. Winnie peered up at it, at the blackness of the bars, with the dim gold of the light between. Into her head came lines from an old poem. Stone walls do not a prison make, nor iron bars a cage. So here she's actually looking at a prison where there are bars, and that she is actually looking at a prison. But what she realizes at this point is, you don't have to actually be behind bars to be in a prison. That so many other things can actually trap you in, like she lived in that gated area, or the Tucks who couldn't ever move on with their lives. They were trapped like they were behind bars, but they weren't actually behind bars. There was something else holding them back. So, don't have to be behind bars to be in a prison. Over and over, the lines repeated themselves in her head till they were altogether meaningless. Another roll of thunder sounded. The storm was moving nearer. Then Miles was standing on a box. He was pouring oil around the frame of the window. A swirl of wind brought the thick, rich smell of it down to Winnie's nostrils. Tuck handed up a tool, and Miles began to pry at the nails securing the window frame. Miles knew carpentry. Miles could do the job. Winnie shivered and held tight to Jess's hand. One nail was free. Another. Tuck reached up to receive them as they came out one by one. A fourth nail screeched as it was pried up, and Miles poured on some more oil. From the front of the jailhouse, the constable yawned noisily and began to whistle. The whistling came nearer. Miles dropped down. They heard the constable's footsteps coming up to May's cell. The barred door clanked. Then the footsteps receded. The whistling grew fainter. An inner door shut, and the lamp glow disappeared. At once Miles was up again, prying at the nails. An eighth was out, a ninth, a 10th. When he counted carefully while behind her, counting, her mind saying, "Stone walls do not a prison make." Miles handed down the prying tool. She grasped the bars of the window firmly, ready to pull, and stood poised. "What is he waiting for?" thought Winnie. "Why doesn't he—" Then a flash of lightning, and soon after a crack of thunder. In the midst of the noise, Miles gave a mighty heave, but the window did not budge. The thunder ebbed. Winnie's heart sank. What if it was all impossible? What if the window would never come out? What if— She looked over her shoulder at the dark shape of the gallows and shuddered. Again, a flash of lightning, and this time a crashing burst of noise from the swirling sky. Miles yanked the window frame sprang free, and still grasping it by the bars, he tumbled backward off the box. The job was done. 2 arms appeared in the hole left by the missing frame. May! Her head appeared. It was too dark to see her face. The window— what if it was too small for her to squeeze through? What if— But now her shoulders were out. She groaned softly. Another flash of lightning lit her face for an instant, and Winnie saw an expression there of deep concentration, tip of tongue protruding, brows furrowed. Now Tuck was on the box, helping her, giving her his own shoulders to pull on. Miles and Jess close at his sides, arms upstretched, eager to receive her bulk. Her hips were free. Now, look out! Here she came, her skirts tearing on the rough edges of the boards, arms flailing, and they were all in a heap on the ground. Another crash of thunder muffled Jess's bursting, exultant laugh. May was free. Winnie clasped her trembling hands thankfully, and then the first drop of rain plopped precisely on the tip of her nose. The Tucks untangled themselves and turned to her. One by one, as the rain began, they drew her to them and kissed her. One by one, she kissed them back. Was it rain on May's face, on Tuck's, or was it tears? Jess was last. He put his arms around her and hugged her tight and whispered the single word, "Remember." So right there, just as a reminder, he's talking about the fact that he gave her the bottle of water from the spring, and the fact that he wants her to drink that so they can get married. Then Miles was on the box again, lifting her. Her hands grasped the edges of the window. This time she waited with him. When the thunder came, it tore the sky apart with its roar, and as it came, she pulled herself through and dropped to the cot inside, unharmed. She looked up at the open square and saw the frame with Miles' hand holding it. The next obliging roll of thunder saw it wedged once more into place. And then, would Miles put the nails? She waited. Rain came in sheets now, riding the wind, flung crossways through the night. Lightning crackled, a brilliant jagged streak, and thunder rattled the little building. The tension in the parched earth eased and vanished. Winnie felt it go. The muscles of her stomach loosened, and all at once she was exhausted. Still she waited. Would Miles put back the nails? At last, standing tiptoe on the cot, she grasped the bars of the window, pulling herself up till she could just see through. Rain blew into her face, but at the next flash of lightning, looking down, she saw that the yard was empty. And before the thunder followed, in a pause while wind and rain held back for one brief moment, she thought she heard, fading in the distance, the tinkling little melody of the music box. The Tucks, her darling Tucks, were gone. So again, we see here Winnie put herself in huge danger. She helped someone escape from prison, but we see that this family meant everything to her. And that was why one of those questions I wanted y'all to think about was, what would you do for, when someone you care about has been in trouble, what were you willing to do for them? Put yourself into Winnie's shoes. Would you have been willing to help break someone out of jail knowing the same thing that she knew, that the consequences would have been horrible? So just something to think about. Again, we see here that Jess reminds her about the bottle of water. He still wants her to drink it so that they can live together for forever. So next time that we read together, we'll be reading the epilogue. So if you need anything, just let me know. But until then, we will see you later.